This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
While the NBA playoffs continue, most of the teams have moved on to getting ready for next month's draft. Combine is ongoing down in Chicago this week with some of the top players in the country being put through the paces. That includes former Wisconsin guard John Tonje. He was one of the top shooters during yesterday's drills. Things will shift to 5-on-5 today. The draft gets going June 25th with the first round. Second round going to be on the 26th. Most projections have Tonje slated for that day. Turning to the Packers, they're still in phase 2 of their offseason program. That allows for coaches to be on the field and putting players through individual drills. Phase 3 going to allow them to do some 11-on-11 during OTAs. That should allow offensive coordinator Adam Stenavich and the rest of the staff a clearer idea of what he's got in Matthew Golden and Savion Williams at wide receiver, though he says the group overall is in a good place.
The good thing now is we have a good core of older wideouts, and then we got these 2 young guys coming in that are really special. So it's not like they have to start and be the guy at a certain position. We can kind of put them in different places, see where they excel, and kind of move them along from there. But I'm excited about a lot of the different things that we can do.
Meanwhile, the NFL schedule going to be released in full later today.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
When a company only does business in Wisconsin, that's Wisconsin Strong. Rural Mutual provides all lines of insurance, including commercial, farm, home, and auto. And your premiums stay right here to keep Wisconsin strong. Local agents, local underwriters, local claims adjusters.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
Well, the Brewers closed out their 6-game road trip with a 9-5 win over Cleveland today. Rhys Hoskins led the way with 5 RBI, including a 2-run homer. Logan Henderson got the win. Milwaukee off tomorrow, host the Twins starting Friday. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil, Prith.
I think it's probably the same way you are as if you're a good parent. I really look at it the same way. At a young age, when I got into coaching, a philosophy that someone said to me, they put a note on my desk one time and they said, treat every player like you would your son and you'll become a great coach.
Elton Jenkins and I came in together in 2019, so it was always a special place, for me. He's a great man. He's a great teammate. There's no concern whatsoever.
This is where Wisconsin gathers to talk sports. Packers, Brewers, Badgers, Bucks. The Wisco Sports Show is on the air. Now, here's your host, Grant Bills.
Two comments from 2 different Packers positional coaches there. That was Jason Vrabel. I believe he's the passing game coordinator now. Once upon a time, I feel like he was the wide receivers coach. Can't remember, doesn't really matter. He works with the wide receivers in the offense, and he's answering a question there. How do you manage the egos and the individual interests of all of these young wide receivers all in the same room? He said, hey, just same you'd manage it as a parent. Seems like good, sage wisdom from a coach. And then the second comment you heard, that was O-line coach Luke Butkus talking about Elton Jenkins. I am not concerned. I'm with him about Elton Jenkins. Not that I know anything about anything because I'm not in the building. I'm not covering the team. But I would bet dollars to donuts that this Elton Jenkins thing is resolved in a way that makes sense for all parties because it seems like the situation moving forward makes sense for all parties. The Packers want him at center, and I would have reason to believe that he has a couple more years where he can play at a high level at center, not as demanding as guard or tackle. He's not 30 yet. I feel like they could extend him. I think Bukowski said on Monday, and he said it right. Like, if there was ever an O-lineman to get a third contract and to play past the age of 30, it would be one that you really, really like, that's been a great team player who's moving to an easier position. So I think that'll get resolved. And I think I was talking about this with our friend Bar Winkler the other day. It's like, this is the best kind of drama, in air quotes. It's the type of drama that gives us a good offseason story to talk about on the radio, but it's not drama that I think will ultimately matter come the season and impact the team's ability to win or compete. So I'll take it. I'll take the stories. I'll take the, again, drama in air quotes, because I don't really think it's drama. It's a story. Good for sports talk radio, but I don't think it'll affect the team in the fall. So it's that perfect Goldilocks type thing. It's the Wisco Sports Show. My name is Grant Bills. Thank you for being here. I'm excited to cover the Packers tonight. Little Brewers. We might be joined by Curt Hogg at 5:30. I texted him earlier today and I said, hey, I'm doing mostly Packers tonight, but it's in a mostly Packers show where it might make sense, a perfect 10 or 12 minutes where we just catch up on the Brewers a little bit. is they're off today. And he's like, well, I'm doing family stuff, but he should be free. I think he'll be free. So if he doesn't show up, that's fine. We're not going to hold it against him. But I believe we'll be catching up with Curt in probably the last half hour of the show. So we'll work some Brewers talk. And also an interesting Bears story that came out today about Caleb Williams and his family. So we're going to pick at that as well. There's some severe weather in the area. I just got an alert on my computer. And when I say area, like the whole state of Wisconsin, I got an alert that says the best place to be is away from any windows, an interior room of the building, right? This is day one storm school stuff. And I just got to point out before we talk about the Packers schedule, there's many days where I feel like a loser because I spend 7-8 hours a day in this padded room that has no windows. While some of you out there might be enjoying a good view of the outside world from your corner office or your second or third story office that you've earned after climbing the corporate structure at your company or your business, and now you look out, you show up, you have your own office and a window with a view of the world, and that must be pretty nice. And some days I wish I had that, but don't you people feel like suckers today? Yeah, have fun in that corner office. If a tornado rips through town, I'll be safe, unless the whole building goes down. Then I'll be screwed. But yeah, not a bad day to be in an interior studio with no windows and padded walls. Yeah, I'm coming out ahead on this one today. I'll take your calls too. 608-321-1670. You comment on the live stream. The live stream is up and running at Facebook, YouTube. If you look up the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills, you can find the page or the YouTube page. Throw it a like or subscribe to it if you want. Makes it easier to watch every day. And it streams on Twitter as well, at Wisco Grant. And if you follow me on Twitter, you get a little notification when the show goes live every day, just in case you forget that it's 4 o'clock. Maybe you're having a busy afternoon in that corner office in your company building with a view. Well, if you follow me on Twitter, subscribe to one of the pages, you'll get a little buzz if you're someone who streams the show every day. Schedule release day is a fun day on sports radio, and I'm treating today as schedule release day because we got some leaks yesterday, but the schedules actually came out last night, so I want to do it for real today. Schedule release day is a fun day because it's a little like jazz or abstract art, right? It's up to interpretation. Everybody's going to see it a little differently, or in the case of jazz music, everyone's going to hear it a little bit differently. Some people might like that saxophone player made a creative choice to play that note, even though it didn't really fit in the song. I like that. That's creative. Ooh, that's musically, it makes me think. Whereas someone else might be like, that sounds like crap. Why don't you just play the right note, right? We hear jazz music or, look at abstract art. We all have a little bit of a different perspective in our brains and our eyes and our ears pick up different things. And the schedule, when it's released in the spring or early summer, right, it's so open to interpretation. Different people see different things. Like you listen to one podcast. I was listening to Bukowski on the drive-in today. And the host on any given podcast, Peter, for example, will be like, hey, the schedule actually lines up great. And here's some reasons why. Look at this little stretch. That's great for the Packers. Or look at this little cluster of road games. Here's why that actually isn't challenging. Or look at this matchup. Here's why this lines up perfectly, right? And you can pick through it and find all the ways like, that's good for my team. That's good for my team. And then you can read another story. I was reading Bill Huber earlier today, SI, and I think he picked the Packers to go like 8 or 9, 9-8, something like that. And someone like Bill Huber, and I'm not saying that Peter is sunshine and rainbows, and I'm not saying Bill Huber is some crabby pessimist. I'm just giving two examples, right? Bill Huber or somebody else might see things more negatively. They say like, oh, this stretch is brutal. Here's why this is a bad thing. Here's why this schedule is going to make it really difficult for the team to compete in the division or to win enough games to get a good seed or even make the playoffs at all. Every NFL challenge is, every NFL schedule is challenging, and every NFL schedule is manageable. Every single one. That's the NFL. I saw this tweet last night. I'd never heard of this cat before. So I bookmarked it. I bookmark a lot of stuff yesterday, schedule release, so I'm scrolling down. This is David Hellman, host of the NFL on Fox podcast, and does Cowboys coverage from Dallas for Fox. He tweeted, I've looked at a dozen schedules and found myself thinking, damn, how are they going to navigate that? Feels like even in a league known for parity, we're in an especially good spot. Can't be more than 2 or 3 teams in the league that don't have a feasible shot at the playoffs. I really like that. That resonated with me because I think every NFL schedule is challenging, every single one. And every single NFL schedule is manageable. Every single one. I can't remember a time where I've picked up a Packers schedule at Fleet Farm, the fridge magnet. I can't remember a time where I've picked up one of those schedules and thought, cakewalk. Easy. 14-2. Win, 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 win. Although it's fun to do that and say, all I see is W's, right? But like, on a serious note, you never pick up an NFL schedule and go, win, 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 easy, 14-2, or I guess now 14-3. Because there's too many good teams in the NFL. And you got to travel East Coast, you got to travel West Coast, you got to, like, every single NFL schedule has its challenges. And I remember, like, last year's schedule, and I think of Vagabond John, who calls in to, be a pain in the ass about Joe Barry or to rain on this parade or rain on that parade. And I love Vagabond John. But he's been calling in recently, and I saw him tweet this the other day, too. He's giving us this manifesto about how easy things were for the Packers last year. And I remember last year's schedule now is one where they had some breaks, right? They caught the Rams at a good time or this and that. But if you go back to this time last year when the schedule first came out, months before the season ever started, you could look at last year's schedule and go, oh, man, they got to play the Rams in L.A. That's a team that I thought was going to win the West. That was the best team. That was one of my Super Bowl picks. And then they end up, missing Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp, and they got them at a good time. Oh, man, they got to play the Texans at Lambeau Field. That, man, C.J. Stroud was legit as a rookie. Well, then, we get to the actual game, and Nico Collins was hurt, and C.J. Stroud kind of had a sophomore slump, and his O-line was bad. And Bobby Slowick didn't continue this meteoric rise as an offensive coordinator, right? We looked at the schedule and thought, oh, the Bears. I mean, they'll be formidable this year. Even if they're not a playoff team, those games will be difficult. And the Bears turned out to be a car accident. Now, they still split the games, but I'm just pointing out examples of how our original thoughts on the schedule didn't play out the way that we thought. The Niners have been a thorn in the Packers' side forever. Uber talented, well coached. Well, by the time the Packers played them, half the team was hurt and the thing was kind of falling apart. And conversely, the other side of that coin, no one thought the Vikings would be good. They were many folks picked to get last in the NFC North. Sam Darnold, he won't be any good. Sam Darnold was like a top 5 MVP candidate at one point. Like, no one thought the Vikings would be any good. They turned out to be unbelievable. People thought the Bears would be okay. They turned out to be a train wreck. I thought the Rams game, the Texans game, the Niners game, I thought, oh man, how are you going to beat those teams? And then the universe, lined up in a way where they played the Rams at a good time. The Texans didn't really have the season that a lot of people thought they'd have. The Niners were hurt. That was an easier game, especially in the cold at Lambeau, than maybe we thought when the schedule came out. Every schedule is challenging. Every schedule is manageable. I've never looked at a schedule when it came out and thought, easy. I've never looked at a schedule that came out and thought, oh my God, how are they going to win games? Because then you get to the season and things work out and things change and the timing of certain matchups and injuries, and some teams perform better than you think. Some teams perform worse, right? In both conferences, 7 teams make the playoffs. So if you're a team that's good enough to win a Super Bowl, a hard schedule will not preclude you or exclude you. You will not be kept out of the playoffs as a legitimate Super Bowl contender just because your schedule is hard. There are 17 games, which is a very large sample for the sport of football, and 7 teams get in. The Bengals last year, for example, had one of the worst defenses in modern football. Just unbelievably bad. And yet 3/4 of the way through the season, you're looking at the Bengals, it's like, well, they're right there. If they were able to win a couple of these games, they might sneak in. And had the Bengals snuck in last year, who's to say? That's Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and Trey Hendrickson. Like, that's a team that's been to a Super Bowl. Like, the Bengals had one of the worst defenses I've ever seen last year, and still, the final month of the season, you're like, it could happen. Crazier things have happened. It's the NFL, right? An early bye week has never made it impossible for a team to get into the postseason. Philly had a week 5 bye last year. Everyone's freaking out that the Packers have a week 5 bye. If you are a Super Bowl caliber team, the bye week, it might be a nuisance if it's early, but it's not going to be the reason that you don't achieve your goals, right? An international game has never stopped a team from making a Super Bowl. The Eagles played in Brazil last year, just like the Packers did. It was an obstacle. It was a unique challenge. It was something that the Eagles had to deal with, and now countless other teams deal with every year because there's games in Ireland, there's games in Brazil, there's still games in Germany and in London, right? East Coast trips, West Coast trips, home road stretches, like all of that stuff, it matters. And we focus on it and we talk about it, and it makes for really good talk radio fodder. And there are a lot of gambling ramifications. Like if you're trying to figure out if a team has a win total of 8.5 and you're trying to figure out whether to bet the over or the under, right? You can pour through all of these different data points. You know what I mean? Like rest advantages or disadvantages, travel advantages or disadvantages, traveling abroad, getting an easier schedule down the stretch versus getting your easy games early, the early buy, the late buy, playing on Thanksgiving or Christmas. Like you can pick through that stuff and it can certainly make a difference of a game or two. So if you're betting over unders or if you're gambling, like there's some value in there, which is why people like Warren Sharp pour through all this stuff and they have like an encyclopedia of all this crap. And again, it matters on a small level, but in terms of who is good and who's going to contend for championships, this stuff isn't life or death, folks. Like if the Packers are a Super Bowl contending team and they're good enough, it doesn't matter when their bye is. It doesn't matter that they have to go East Coast, West Coast in week 10. It doesn't matter that they have a short week and they have to play on Thanksgiving. Like all of those, it might make a difference between 11-6 or 12-5. Like, yeah, totally. Which would matter if you're gambling or if you're really trying to get on the. But if we're just talking about whether or not the Packers can go on a deep playoff run and win a Super Bowl, stuff only matters so much. Doesn't matter that much. Packers won the Super Bowl as a 6-seeded wild card team in 2010. And then there are years where they went 15-1. You crash out in the first round of the playoffs. Are you a Super Bowl caliber roster with a Super Bowl caliber quarterback and a Super Bowl caliber coaching staff? If all those things are true, the scheduling fine details, they're just that. They're fine details. And it would matter for gambling. And it certainly makes for great conversation on Sports Talk Radio, which is why we're leading the show with it tonight. Is it really going to matter when January and February rolls around? No, you're going to be left with the best teams. And those best teams will find a way to manage the travel and the international game and the early buy or the late buy or a long run of divisional games. Championship level teams deal with that stuff. Might make a difference of a game, maybe two, but come mid-January, early February when, the Super Bowl is starting to fire up in San Francisco this year in 2026, it's not going to matter. But I'm more than happy to talk about it. In fact, we're just starting to talk about it. It's scheduled release day or the day after, now that we actually have the real thing. So I'll take your calls on this subject. If you are interested, we can pick through the Packers schedule, maybe point out some of the more interesting stretches and interesting matchups. 608-321-1670. Your phone calls next.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Wisco Sports Show, reacting to begin tonight's show, looking at the Packers schedule as it came out officially last night, and the Packers posted their schedule release video, which I guess is something that the entire NFL just does now. I know that, a couple of years ago, the Titans did one, or the Chargers. They've always had very clever social media presence. I guess this was the year where every NFL team was like, we need to produce some sort of video that's a couple minutes long. And some of them were fun. I watched a little bit of the Packers. It's just not for me. Doesn't mean it can't be for thee. I just tweet the graphic of the full schedule. That's all that I need. And on a secondary note, I don't need the Packers Twitter account to be fun and zany. The 13-time world champion Green Bay Packers. Just be boring. It's okay. You can get away with it. The Brewers, you need to work a little bit harder. Sorry. The Packers, no. You and the Steelers and teams like that, you can be the stuffy, old-timey, old-fashioned, old-school social media accounts with the header picture of all the Lombardis, and you can just tweet the picture of the schedule. That's fine. 608-321-1670 to your phone calls. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hey, it's Big Ron in New Jersey.
Hey, Big Ron. What's going on?
I got a couple of scheduling comments, couple national things, and then I'll get into the Packers.
Sure.
For the national, it's interesting. I believe the Titans had the first overall pick and took a quarterback.
They did.
In Miami Hurricanes, Cam Ward. And they do not have any national TV games. It's the first time.
It's them and the Browns, and there was one other team, right? I think there were three teams.
Yeah.
And that could change. If Cam Ward's a superstar, they'll flex. They'll find a way to stick him somewhere later in the year. You could at least put him on some Thursday night football game. If I'm going to watch a crummy Thursday night football game, and there will be plenty of those, there always is, might as well stick Cam Ward on one of them so we can watch him.
Yeah, it's interesting. I heard the fact that this is the first time a quarterback has been taken with the number one overall pick and hasn't had a primetime game since Cam Newton was a rookie.
Interesting.
And that goes back quite a ways.
I also want to know why they didn't want to put Cam Newton in a primetime game. He had just won a national title at Auburn, right?
Yeah, he had won the Heisman. He had won a national title.
Weird.
He beat Alabama in crazy fashion. He had a heroic season at Auburn. That is his last year at Auburn.
Which you can't say about Cam Ward. You know what I mean? I'm not the world's biggest college football guy, but I don't know that Cam Ward was moving hearts and minds.
Yeah, and there was controversy with Cam Newton. He had transferred schools. I think he was at Florida. He had gotten in trouble there.
The laptop situation.
Yeah, there was some controversy with him too. So he was more marketable, I think, because any press is good press when it comes to celebrities, just about. But the other national comment I wanted to make is, there's three national fan bases in the NFL. There's the Packers, the Steelers, and the Cowboys. And the Cowboys, probably go neck and neck. Those three probably go neck and neck, on any given year, depending on how well the team's doing. But the Cowboys are really getting screwed because they have 4 Thursday night games.
Yeah, so they have the opener, Thanksgiving, a Thursday night football game, and then is there Christmas on a Thursday, or what's the fourth one?
I don't know. I just heard. I heard that there are 4. They play 4 Thursday night games. I don't know when they are. But that's got to be tough on a football team to be playing on that many Thursdays. That's so disruptive.
Yeah. It also, the schedule makers are pretty clever with this stuff. So they play on opening night, right? So
Yeah.
that doesn't really hurt them.
So that's not disruptive.
Yeah, that's
you're
not
right.
disruptive. And then they
So that
get
doesn't
an extra 10 days. And I would imagine with Thanksgiving, they get the full week. So they go Thursday to Thursday, their Thursday night game. And then I don't know what the other one would be. Yeah, Christmas is on a Thursday this year. So that's probably their other one. And that's probably their only true, well, it doesn't matter that much. But you're right. It is disruptive. The league does find ways to kind of make it so it's not the worst thing in the world.
And so the last thing, my local comment about scheduling, but before I got to compliment you. I was listening to the end of the Evo show when you were on, and then I heard Bill Michaels talking about it too at the beginning of his show. How hilarious! That was hilarious.
Yeah, we were doing some Aaron Rodgers meditation ASMR. That was kind of fun to walk into this morning.
That was hilarious. So, but people were calling in the Evo show predicting records, and all these people are calling and saying 12-7. This team went 1-5 against the NFC North, and that one win was a fingertip on a blocked field goal, last second blocked field goal. They could have easily been 0-6. And I just don't understand where this optimism is coming from. Sure, they drafted some guys, whatever, but everybody drafts people. So, I'm agreeing with Evo. He came out with 10-7. I think they're 10-7. I think they're a fringe playoff team. I think it'll go down probably to the last game of the season.
It might. And look, Big Ron, how many good Packers teams in our lifetimes, the Super Bowl team most notably, but there have been some other Packer teams where the schedule's tough or you deal with injuries and you just don't win as many games as, you would think. But sometimes a 10-7 team can be better than, a 13-4 team, depending on the schedule and the division and the league and all that stuff. So that's why I said at the beginning of the show, like, now more than ever, I think the travel and the opponents and the East-West and the international stuff, I think that matters for maybe a game or two. And if you're a gambler, right, you pay attention to that stuff. That's really good information. But if the Packers are a Super Bowl team, I don't think a hard schedule excludes them from being able to win a Super Bowl. Do you know what I mean?
No, that's a great point, man. So, look, I got to hop, but I'll let you go. But it was great talking to you, Grant. Have a great show.
You too, Big Round. Appreciate it. The Cowboys playing on 4 Thursdays. The funny thing about the Cowboys, so big market, big fan base, gets a lot of eyeballs, right? I don't know that there's any part of this Cowboys team that's that sexy. You know what I mean? Had they drafted one of the top wide receivers in this draft, like if they had gotten McMillan or Golden, who is a Texas guy, like there'd be something. But they're coached by Brian Schottenheimer. Matt Eberflus is their defensive coordinator. Dak's getting healthy, but like I'd rather watch Kyler Murray than Dak Prescott. That doesn't mean that I'd want Kyler Murray as my quarterback instead of Dak, although I might. I don't know. But it's not like Dak is box office. And Brian Schottenheimer certainly, like if they had hired Gruden or Pete Carroll or Belichick, okay. But Brian Schottenheimer, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not sure I don't know that that's the ticket. We can continue to talk about this on the other side of the break. I think I found some of the audio from this morning show. Ebo was doing this Aaron Rodgers ASMR thing.
I am open to anything attached to nothing. Besides making the decision about playing football return. Yo, Kinger.
Yo! Kinger. If you guys listen to the morning show, we are blessed with Kinger's high-level calls often. Heady analysis. Always speaking very intelligently, that Kinger is. I mean, he's just a joy to communicate with every day. Also, Kate thought that Aaron Rodgers was trying to replace Steve Harvey, and I had to come into the studio and say, yeah, that was Alex Trebek. Rest in peace. Both at one moment in time, Alex Trebek also did have a pretty kick-ass mustache, but probably still not on the level of Steve Harvey. Alex Trebek also aged in a way where he was like, yeah, I don't want to keep the creepy mustache. Duck and Holman texting in on the text. Yeah, you could text the show as well. Thank you, Duck. Nice to hear from you. 608-321-1670. Cinderella Man says, not all of us over-the-line listeners are destined to be scholars of the sport. Yeah, I wouldn't say that that Kinger is, although I have gotten, it's like a wart that you just learn to love. I do enjoy Kinger calls. I think a couple interesting tidbits of the schedule, and actually Derek in Albany, who's a caller to Bill's show, pointed this out. I, for whatever reason, didn't even connect the dots on this. They go from week 1 to week 12, all the way from September 7th to November 23rd, without playing any divisional games. So they open with the Lions at home. Sneaky, massive game. Because if they lose that game, like, we're just going to pick up right where we left off last year. And as a Packers fan and owner, I don't want to feel that way. And I certainly don't want to host a radio show in that climate. Like, I don't just want to pick up where we left off last year. I want new things. So please, God, beat the Lions in week 1. But then they go Commanders, Browns, Cowboys, bye, Bengals, Cardinals, Steelers, Panthers, Eagles, Giants. And then 1, 2, 3, 5, 4, 5. 5 of their final 7 games are divisional. Am I counting that right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, 5 of their final 7. So they play the Lions to open the season, and then they go till Thanksgiving, basically, or the week before, 4 days before Thanksgiving, before playing another divisional game. So hot and heavy with divisional matchups down the stretch, which means there could be great volatility in the divisional standings in the final 2 months or month, which I'm sure the NFL likes. It keeps more teams engaged longer, and it makes those late season games, especially the divisional games, even more meaningful. A game that just fascinates me. I don't even think it's going to really matter all that much in the Packers' pursuit of trying to get back to and win a Super Bowl. The Ravens coming to Green Bay 2 days after Christmas or the weekend after Christmas. That game could be Saturday or Sunday. But in week 17, Baltimore, Green Bay at Lambeau in the cold under the lights will be a badass football game. And there's shades. It's not apples and oranges, but it might be like apples and tomatoes. Like, it's 2 foods, but 2 very different types of foods. I always remember Packers Patriots in 2014 as kind of the gold standard of uncommon opponent matchup at Lambeau, right? Like 2014 Packers Patriots, I believe that was the weekend after Thanksgiving, because I remember deer hunting that morning. One of the best football games I've ever watched in my life, regular season football games I've ever watched in my life. It felt massive. Brady, Rodgers at Lambeau under the lights, CBS. It just felt huge. Lamar Jackson, Jordan Love, Packers Ravens week 17 under the lights in the cold. Yeah, that dog will hunt. And that game might not mean a whole lot, if the Packers are comfortably in a playoff spot. Now, if they're fighting for a playoff spot, they might just need the win. You know what I mean? And in that respect, the game is as important as any, because they're all worth the same amount a little bit later in the season. So you extra eyeballs and extra pressure. But the games that will be much bigger will be week 14 Chicago, week 16 Chicago, week 18 Minnesota, Thanksgiving against the Lions. But an uncommon opponent in week 17 under the lights at Lambeau, like, sign me up for that. That's going to be blockbuster television. And I hope that that's a CBS primetime game on Sunday. I kind of hope they don't flex it to Saturday night, because Saturday night games are fun, but they don't feel as big as the Sunday afternoon games. I would like for that to be, it'd be great if that was the America's Game of the Week, CBS's version with Nance and Romo. Sunday Night Football would rip too, but I'm perfectly fine with it just being an afternoon game. Sometimes in a weird way, the Sunday afternoon game can feel bigger than Sunday Night Football. I know it's probably, depending on the matchup, it doesn't get as many eyeballs, but you know what I mean? Like, there's that Rose Bowl-ish effect where it starts, where it's not dark, and then it gets dark over the course of the game and the lights kind of take over. Depending on the matchup, the 3:30 game can feel as big or bigger than Sunday Night Football. So that's a game of all of the games. Eagles on Monday night at home, that's going to be badass. Jaden Daniels, Jordan Love, Thursday Night Football, that's going to be badass. But Ravens, Packers under the lights at Lambeau Field late in the year in the cold, that excites me just as a football fan. Like, that's going to be a great product to watch. That's going to be a game that a lot of football fans will want to turn on their TV and watch. Standings aside, win-loss record aside, unless both teams suck, then it'll lose some intrigue. But just 2 huge brands with deep postseason history, not against each other, but plenty of history making deep postseason runs over the last 2 decades or so. Very excited for that game. I'll take more of your thoughts, and I want to work in some comments from Packers positional coaches. Wide receiver coach, O-line coach gave us some great insight into what's going on with Elton Jenkins, into what's going on with the O-line. Like, is Rasheed Walker your left tackle? What's up with Jaden Reed? That kind of thing. So we'll get to that on the other side of the break. And we can continue to talk schedule as well, but a call's coming in, so why wait 5 minutes? Let's just do this now. 608-321-1670, Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Grant, I just had one question for you today.
Yes.
How you doing?
I'm well, Vagabond John. How about you?
By the way, pray for the Northwest Wisconsin friends. I don't know what just rolled through the Twin Cities, but I looked at the Tornado HQ, and there were 3 separate tornadoes circling the area, and I know they're headed up towards the...
I saw Justice Cleveland in Eau Claire, who does television up there, golf ball-sized hail in his yard. Ooh.
Yeah, it was pretty freaky. We've got skylights, and the sound of hail hitting the skylight was new to me. But obviously, praying for Spooner because we don't need that again.
Siren, Spooner, Pepin, just the classic Northwest Wisconsin victim towns that always get nailed with weather.
Yeah, Tornado Alley, if you will. Grant, I did have a couple schedule related. So this is exactly what I was talking about around the office today with Commanders fans. So do you think Jordan Love today, if you had to pick one, would you take Jordan Love or the fella from Washington?
I mean, I think I'd take Jaden Daniels. I think there's a lot to be proven by both. But in the limited high-level sample we have of either, I feel like Jaden Daniels' level was a little bit higher than Jordan Love's at their respective peaks. So I guess I'd say Jaden Daniels.
Yeah, I agree, and that's obviously my office I've mentioned before is based in Washington, D.C. The question my coworker followed up with was, do you think, because he was like Packers optimism, right? He goes, Packer fans, you guys are always so cocky. You were kind of going back and forth in the office, virtually, of course. The question they asked is, do you think Jordan Love is closer to Lamar Jackson or Malik Willis as an NFL quarterback? Like, is the gap between Malik Willis, based off of what we saw last year, and Jordan Love smaller or larger than the gap between Lamar Jackson and Jordan Love? And I know you got a break, so I'm going to let you go there.
I think he's closer to Lamar just because, I mean, let's say Jordan Love is conservatively the 12th best quarterback in the NFL. You know what I mean? Let's say he's Kirk Cousins. Different athletic profiles, different skill sets, but let's just say his overall value relative to his peers is about Kirk Cousins. And I think his ceiling is higher than that. I think he'll have moments where he's worse, but I think his ceiling is significantly higher than that. Let's just say he's the 12th best quarterback in football, which is not, I think, most Packers fans like hopes and dreams for Jordan Love. So conservatively, we'll put him at 12th best in the league. Like, that's closer to Lamar than Malik Willis. And I know Malik Willis played well as a backup. I'm still not convinced that if he had to start for a team for 17 games, he would be anything special. I think he's closer to Lamar. My point is, the 12th best quarterback in the NFL is still a pretty freaking good quarterback. You know what I mean? I don't really know what you're getting at. I don't really, like, that's a fun debate to have it work, I guess. I don't know if there's a larger point that you're driving at, but it's a point that I don't see and one that I'm not going to belabor. So let's take a break. We'll come back. Jordan Love is on the table. I saw a couple good sound bites from different football talkers over the last couple of days, including one from Robert Mays and Derek Klass, both of The Athletic, that I'm going to share with you. I guess Robert Mays is at Yahoo now, but who cares? If you know who they are, you know where they are. And if not, it doesn't make a difference. So we'll come back, work in some audio from different NFL talkers and some Packers positional coaches as well on the other side.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 5 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 4 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
It's the Wisco Sports Show. Appreciate you being here, listening. I think we're going to chat with Curt Hogg in about an hour. Just a Brewers catch up. It'll be a nice little palate cleanser in the middle of what's a pretty Packers heavy show, pretty NFL heavy show. You can be a part of it. Continue to take your calls at 608-321-1670. Some really good commentary this week from Packers positional coaches. I've really enjoyed this week as both a host, but also Bill's producer during the day. Any audio I can get my grubby hands on, I'm going to take, and it will help matters because it gives us something to kick around. It gives us something to react to. And earlier this week, we listened to Stenavich, Bisaccia, Hafley, right? Those are the heavy hitters. Those are the legit coordinators, offense, defense, special teams. But then as the week has progressed, and I think this was mostly yesterday, assistant coaches were speaking. So O-line, wide receiver, running backs, tight ends, that sort of thing. And I'm just looking for recurring themes because listening to Stenavich earlier this week and LaFleur and others who've spoken throughout the offseason, it's like they are obsessed with competition and talking about competition and how we want guys to, earn their spot here. We want Jordan Morgan to compete for left tackle, even though that's been Rasheed Walker's spot, right? And I understand that. I agree with that. Because you always want to be getting younger and you always want to be improving. You always want competition at spots. That's how you should run a team. I question whether or not the Packers should be so blatant and vocal about it. You know what I mean? Like, while you're trying to find a left tackle that's better than Rasheed Walker, or while you're trying to find a wide receiver one that's better than Jaden Reed, maybe don't constantly tell Rasheed Walker and Jaden Reed that you're trying to do exactly that. Right? Reasonable? Fair? Now, I don't think that's why Elton Jenkins is looking for a new contract. He's a veteran that knows the way that it works, and he's changing positions, so that makes sense. And Jaden Reed, I think, is reasonably looking at his future and trying to figure out, well, am I going to get the targets and the production that I need to get my next contract? Very fair, very reasonable. I think with some of these other guys, I just wonder if the Packers' constant chorus of competition, 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 we want a lot of guys in the mix for that position. It's like, well, if I'm a player who's been starting at a given position and doing a fine job, like, yeah, I'm aware I'm going to have to earn my job, but it kind of seems like you might have something out for me. Here's a couple comments from Luke Buckus. Let's start with what Rasheed needs to do to win the left tackle job.
Just like everybody, right? You just need to compete in that room, because the harder he works, the more it brings up the room from the bottom. So we're going to challenge him with everybody in that room, with the right side, with the guards, the centers. The harder that they work, the better the room is going to be, and the more depth we're going to have come fall.
So I love this direct questioning, and I don't know who asked this, but I'm glad someone just came out and said, "Is Rasheed Walker their starting left tackle? Is it him? Yes or no?"
Well, Rasheed Walker is the left tackle for the Green Bay Packers. Yes.
Not the question. I think that's Domofsky.
Well, Rasheed Walker is the left tackle for the Green Bay Packers.
The or a left tackle. Hell yeah.
In this room, it's always about competition. You know that. That stems from our head coach, from our offense coordinator. And Rasheed will tell you that he's working to win that job, just like everyone else.
He's working to keep that job. Wonder what Rasheed Walker feels about all this. And again, NFL players should have to compete for their spot, always. It's the way the league works. But if I was Rasheed Walker, I'd be like, hey, I was a 7th round pick who's done nothing but overachieve and be really good at left tackle. And there's plenty of positions on this team that aren't so hot. Like the pass rush really isn't all that great. And corner is kind of hodgepodge. And it's not like the wide receivers lit it up last year. And yet, everyone seems to have a stiffy for trying to incrementally improve left tackle. And if I was Rasheed Walker, I'd be like, is there a problem? I did like this question and answer. Talk about what you've seen from Jordan Morgan, because he was their 1st round pick last year, essentially redshirted because of injury. I would like for him to contribute. That would certainly help the Packers this year. Here's Luke Buckus again, the Packers O-line coach, talking a little bit about what he's seen from him.
You guys see the same thing you see, right? How athletic he is, how easy he moves, and how smooth it looks. I was just talking to Coach Gordon, and sometimes it looks like he's not straining or playing hard. I think it's just naturally, it's easy for him to just move, to gain ground, to just skim the blades of the grass, and it's effortless. Where a guy like me, it looks clunky and robotic, but really like where he's headed and the direction he's going. Love it.
It's interesting because he's talking about Jordan Morgan. Let's just, the first 5 seconds of that.
You guys see the same thing you see, right? How athletic he is, how easy he moves, and how smooth it looks.
So that's the type of lineman. Those are the type of traits that the Packers have coveted for the better part of 10 or 15 years. Really Aaron Rodgers' entire career, right? David Bakhtiari types. Jason Spriggs, I know he didn't pan out, but that was kind of the prototype of player they were looking for. Versatile, athletic, movable, natural in space as the pocket might shift one way or the other if Aaron Rodgers is extending plays. And Jordan Morgan certainly fits that bill. But then what's going on with Aaron Banks and Anthony Belton? Because those guys are not that. Those are just massive human beings, a little bit of a departure. And we've talked about that. I think that's one of the most under-discussed trends of this offseason, where the Packers have kind of taken a left turn. And we talked about this with Mike Renner last week. Here's Luke Buckus, 30 seconds, talking about what Aaron Banks can do for them at left guard.
Well, Aaron's played at a high level for a long time. Well, not for a long time, but for 5 years, right?
I think he's played at a solid level, by the way. Whether it's a long time, I don't really care about that. I don't know if he's high level. He's been solid.
He brings a little bit of veteran leadership. He played for a good offensive line, a really good football coach in San Francisco. So little things like that he could help, the details of the game, things that he's seen while he's played, compared to some guys that have only played a few snaps here and there. But he's been great. He's kind of learning our system right now and our language, but you could see him getting it pretty fast and also bringing guys along.
Well, he should get it pretty fast. I mean, he's a veteran at this point. He's played for 4 or 5 years, like he said. one more because I'm curious. Jordan Morgan, fast, athletic. Aaron Banks, not so much. Anthony Belton is like 355. So here he's talking about what they liked about Anthony Belton, why they took him in the draft in the second round. And it was a reach. That doesn't mean he's a bad player, but they drafted him higher than I think a lot of folks thought he would go.
Well, really liked Anthony's film at North Carolina State. And during last year, I believe he was around 360 plus. He's a little lighter now, but he was really athletic. And now it's showing even more as he starts to shed some pounds. So for a big man to be able to move like that, it's pretty cool.
It's just interesting how, again, it's a departure from what they've done. They're operating with a couple of different strategies on the O-line, and it's interesting. I'm interested to see where it goes. I'm going to go back and I'm going to dig up what Mike Renner had to say about this last week because I think that would be a good reset, and I think it would behoove all of us to hear that again. Let's take a call. 608-321-1670. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hey, it's Uncle Packer.
Hey, Uncle Packer. What's up?
Not much. I was listening to you and intently listening to you, thinking that you think the Packers would maybe have a we can't beat them, join them kind of attitude, and thinking that we're going to get big along the front and do that dreaded, daunted, terrible play that neither one of us like, and they try to get banned and just bring a big package in, and if you can't stop us for 2 yards, we're going to take it every time.
I don't think it's tush-push related. I think it might be that Matt LaFleur wants to run the ball a little bit differently, a little bit more physical, a little more force, especially now with Josh Jacobs. We'll see what Marshawn Lloyd gives them. I just don't know from a pass blocking perspective, this is such a departure from what we've seen from them, you know?
There has been a change for these big, aggressive offensive guards. The Eagles haven't last year. That was a massive human that was moving people around at the guard position.
Yep.
So, I mean, maybe that's what we're going for and just trying to replicate that and get our running game going. I think that's true, too. I like lots of choices of offensive linemen because when you lose one, I like that the Packers, when we lose an offensive lineman, we don't replace that offensive lineman. We shuffle the whole offensive line to a better place that we can play with more options. I think that's a great coach offensive line.
No, and they've been very good at O-line, Uncle Packer, and I got to run, so I appreciate the call. I wish they would take that same approach of abundance to the defensive line and the pass rush. And again, if I was Rasheed Walker, it's like, okay, why are you guys so obsessed with replacing me over here? Look at the pass rush. Look at corner. Like, oh, Rasheed Walker's only an 8 out of 10. We want a 10 out of 10. What about the rest of the team? Like, these players, they shouldn't be afraid to compete for their job every single year. I get that. But at the same time, like, if I was Rasheed Walker, I might be a little miffed. Let's take a break. We'll come back, wrap up hour number 1 next.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Big River Rally coming to La Crosse, Wisconsin, June 27th and 28th. Don't miss the excitement on the main stage Friday night. It's Texas Hippie Coalition. Come on. And Saturday night, Drowning Pool. Tickets are on sale now. Want more? Follow Big River Rally on social or go to BigRiverRally.com.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Their strategy this season was mind-blowing to me, because to me, they got two left guards. And, when I watch Anthony Bell on tape, I'm like, he could play tackle in the NFL, but I do ultimately think at his size that he is a left guard. Aaron Banks is a left guard. Well, the best player in your offensive line last year was your left guard. Elton Jenkins. Now he's super versatile. And like, if you want to play left tackle or center or whatever, like, he's not going to be bad. Like, he's still going to be maybe your best player in your offensive line. I just couldn't believe what they did. Now, where they all play, I'm not sure, but I think it signals more to me is that they're going to change up what they want to do in the running game, because not only did they get two left guards, they got two guys who are like big, huge dudes. Aaron Banks at 325, Anthony Belton was like 345 at the Senior Bowl, which is probably where he's comfortable playing, even if he weighed 330 at the combine. So they are people moving type of players that just go historically the Green Bay Packers and what they've covered at offensive line. They've always given up pure strength for movement skills. They've always given up guys that can move people for guys that they themselves can move. I think it signals that they want to run different run concepts. They don't want to be a stretch zone team. They want to run power. They want to run gap. They want to move the line of scrimmage and have firm pockets, as opposed to guys who can more hold on and mirror.
I know that was a long soundbite, and we only got a minute or so before we take a break, but I think that's the perfect way to kind of conclude our conversation about the Packers O-line. And we were hearing a little bit from Luke Butkus, the Packers O-line coach, talking about Belton and Jordan Morgan and Aaron Banks. And there's a lot of different factors swirling around. Elton Jenkins is moving to center. Okay. You sign a left guard, Aaron Banks. Jordan Morgan's still here from last year, but Jordan Morgan seems like this different prototype of player who's fluid and has great movement skills. Banks is just a cement mixer. Belton is a cement mixer with another cement mixer attached. And then Rasheed Walker and Zach Tom are thin, athletic movement skill guy. Like, it's a hodgepodge. It's a real hodgepodge. And I also think that was Mike Renner, by the way, the commentary about signaled change from one run scheme to another. And maybe the Packers have always kind of wanted to do this. Like, maybe A.J. Dillon was the first attempt at getting more physical and doing some different things. It just didn't work because he wasn't that good. We'll pick this up on the other side. I'll get back to your calls as well. 608-321. First, an update from Zach.
This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, it's an off day for the Brewers. It comes after they salvaged a single game of their 3-game series with Cleveland yesterday. Crew went just 2-4 on their 6-game road trip, now just 5-8 in the month of May. Those struggles led to a team meeting after their 2-0 loss on Tuesday. The second team meeting in the last few weeks. Reese Hoskins played down the nature of that meeting, but acknowledged the importance of getting one game in the series.
That's a big one for us, rough stretch, rough month, let's call it, of May so far for us, but that's not going to change our mentality, at least how we prepare every day and get ready to show up to compete. So sometimes, you kind of need to take it on the chin a little bit. And I think just talking about it last night as a group put us in a good position to go compete today.
Milwaukee back in action tomorrow night as the Twins come to American Family Field. Chad Patrick on the mound for the Crew. Minnesota sends Joe Ryan. Turn to the NBA. The draft combine finishing up down in Chicago. It includes former Badger guard John Tonje. Most projections have him going in the second round of next month's draft. Could become just the fourth Wisconsin player drafted since 2012.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
When a company only does business in Wisconsin, that's Wisconsin Strong. Rural Mutual provides all lines of insurance, including commercial, farm, home, and auto. And your premiums stay right here to keep Wisconsin strong. Local agents, local underwriters, local claims adjusters.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
Well, the NFL released its full schedule last night, and it includes a rarity for the Packers opening the season at home. They will do so for the first time since 2018 against the Lions. Some other highlights include a Thursday night game against Washington, a trip to Detroit on Thanksgiving, and closing the season in Minnesota in Week 18. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Kyle, Print.
I think it's probably the same way you are as if you're a good parent. I really look at it the same way. Like at a young age, when I got into coaching, a philosophy that someone said to me, they put a note on my desk one time and they said, treat every player like you would your son and you'll become a great coach.
Elton Jenkins and I came in together in 2019, so it was always a special place, for me. He's a great man. He's a great teammate. There's no concern whatsoever.
This is where Wisconsin gathers to talk sports. Packers, Brewers, Badgers, Bucks. The Wisco Sports Show is on the air. Now, here's your host, Grant Bills.
Hour number 2. So if you got anything to call in and say, you got to say it before 6 o'clock because I will be off tomorrow. I got to go to a wedding. I'm in the wedding. I'm officiating. I got to go to the rehearsal dinner. So I don't want to be gone. I don't want to take tomorrow night off. Although, I'll be honest with you, I don't mind leaving work at 3 in the afternoon instead of 6 in the evening. I don't mind. So I'll welcome your calls the rest of the show, 608-321-1670. Been talking Packers, reacting to the schedule. There's also a big story out today about Caleb Williams and the Bears. So Seth Wickersham has a quarterback book out this fall, and it's called, what's it called? American Royalty, American Kings, a biography of the quarterback. And he talked with a bunch of different quarterbacks. Caleb Williams won, Drake May, Kirk Cousins, and some former players as well, and some pretty big names. But I'm not going to give you all those details of the story. You should definitely go read it. And if that's a book that interests you, you should buy it. But I'll read you the pertinent Bears part. Quarterback Caleb Williams was so concerned about being picked by the Bears in 2024 that he and his entire family weighed blowing up the NFL draft, consulting with lawyers to figure out a way around the league's collective bargaining agreement while considering signing with the United Football League. Details from a forthcoming book reveal. Chicago is the place quarterbacks go to die, Carl Williams, Caleb's father, told Seth Wickersham, author of American Kings, a biography of the quarterback, in the months before the 2024 draft. Give you a little bit more. I need to go to the Vikings, he told his father. Let's do it, his father replied, but both Caleb and Carl knew that a trade to a divisional rival was extremely unlikely. Bears general manager Ryan Poles stood firm. We're drafting you no matter what. That left one option, to publicly attack the Bears and the city of Chicago, hoping that it would make the situation untenable, similar to what Jack and John Elway had done with the Colts in '83. He's worried about me taking bullets, Carl Williams told Wickersham of his son. I don't care. I just don't agree with this, I'm more interested in making sure that he can do what he wants to do. But Caleb was concerned that if they did try and the Bears refused to trade him, that it would make a tough situation worse. Yeah, you can say that again. Caleb Williams told Wickersham, I wasn't ready to nuke the city. Now, later in the story, after a pre-draft visit to the Bears facility, Williams believed that he could be part of the process to turn the franchise around. Quote, I can do it for this team, Caleb told his dad. I'm going to go to the Bears. The Bears declined to comment. Not really that insane of a story, and I don't think it'll matter come the fall because if Caleb is a great quarterback and Ben Johnson is a good coach, the Bears have enough talent. I think the team will be fine. Just a very interesting look into what was going on in the weeks and the months leading up to the draft. And by the way, I remember Cowherd saying a lot of this stuff. People like, oh, Colin, you blah, blah, blah. Everyone wants to yell at the insider or the connected person in sports when they say things about their team or their star. Like, hey, some people are really good at this. Some people are really tapped and connected. Like maybe Diana Rossini isn't making crap up. Like I saw all these replies from Bears fans today in some of these ESPN links. It's like, well, Wickersham always spins crap. You know that. Really? Like, really? That's who you think Seth Wickersham is and has been over the course of his career? Think he's a guy who just makes up reports for clicks? Come on. Now, maybe there's some people who do that, but I think those people are the outliers, and we kind of know who those people are. Like Seth Wickersham is not, he's just making up quotes of the Williams family. You know how easy that would be to shoot down? So an interesting story. I don't think it matters a lot. It's funny. It makes the Bears look dumb, but the Bears were dumb last year. Look at how bad it was. There's anecdotes in the story about Caleb Williams watching film. He's like, no one watched film with me. No one told me what to look for, what to do. They just told me to go watch films. That's what I did. That is a really crystal clear look into an organization that it just doesn't know what they're doing with quarterbacks. You know what I mean? Like Kevin O'Connell, who's rehabilitated a couple guys now. Josh Dobbs was great there last year. Sam Darnold was great this year. What McVay has done with guys, like those guys have a clue. When the quarterback shows up for work, they're like, we're going to do ABC 1, 2, 3. Here's what I've done with this guy. Here's what we're going to do with you. The Bears were like, well, there's the film room. Your fob will let you in. It's like the Family Guy. Family Guy's been trending the last couple of days. It's like when Peter's the babysitter and the kid's in the bathtub. He's like, well, so here's a couple toys to play with. And it's like a toaster that he plugged in. Here's a radio. I'm just going to set that right on the edge of the tub. You know what I mean? Just like giving these kids a bunch of dangerous things. Quarterback's like, well, there's the film room. You can see yourself in and out. Your fob will work. Projector, the power button's on the wall if you need anything else. It's like they just don't know what they're doing, which we knew about the Bears, but kind of funny to see it come to light in this way. I still think if Caleb Williams is good and Ben Johnson is good, they'll be a good team this fall. This is secondary, but it is interesting fodder, if nothing else. 608-321-1670. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hey, this is Keith from Cross Plains. How you doing, Grant?
Keith?
You got it.
Keith, I am doing well. Nice to chat with you, Keith.
Good. Good. I listen to your show pretty regularly on my Beltline drive home, but I don't call very often. I don't know.
Well, you're focused. You're focused on the Beltline, which is good because I can't tell how many times I'm headed home and then I get delayed 10 minutes because somebody was looking at their phone and slammed their car into the barrier. Hope they're okay,
right.
But let's lock in a little bit. So that's okay, Keith.
Oh, good. I'll blame Grant.
Yeah,
that's what I'll do.
Yeah, right.
There you go.
Oh God. Well, what's up?
Hey. Yeah, I want to chime in on this Packer O-line situation. You're really on one here recently about this competition thing, and specifically Rasheed Walker. And I'll give you the easy version, and then I'll give you a little more nuance.
Okay.
So the easy version is I watched the Eagles game in the playoffs. That O-line wasn't good enough, period. Yeah. Every one of those guys should be on notice from here on out until they prove otherwise. And I think it's not a coincidence that they went big on the interior specifically because they saw what Philadelphia did to him. So I'll start there. Second, Rasheed Walker is a great story. The reason that guy was available when he was in the draft is because his knee is not good. You do not give franchise left tackle money to guys with his injury history.
Sure.
It's not going to end well for him. It's a great story. Love the guy. Love what he's given the team. He has to be replaced. You cannot pay that guy, in my opinion.
So, and they could ultimately trade him. Like they could shop him if they feel like they have a decent replacement. Do they need to replace him this year? He's under contract for another season, And look, I'm with you. And maybe that's your commentary on Philly. Maybe they just realize, we're really susceptible to a bull rush, like a really strong, fresh, physical defensive line. So we need to get bigger. I think you're right.
That's it. Yeah. And do they need to get rid of Walker this year? No, but I think you drafted Jordan Morgan, and you drafted these guys because you want to play them, right? Yeah. So
it's the idea.
I feel like that's the direction, right? I think Morgan's your starting left tackle at the beginning of the season.
Look, that would make that pick look a lot better. That's a great call, Keith, and you really added a lot, so I appreciate it to this O-line discussion. Here is a little point made about Zach Tom, too, because I think a lot more people are confident that the Packers are going to pay Zach Tom. And Keith's right about Rasheed Walker. He lasted that long because no one thought his knee was going to fix itself, and then it did miraculously in a way that doctors didn't think was possible. So I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I don't know the chances that injury reappears, or if it's I don't know the dynamics of the injury. So just because it healed the first time and he's been able to play and play at a high level doesn't mean that that'll continue. I think most Packers fans believe that Zach Tom is much more likely to receive a contract for lots of reasons. Here's Luke Buckus talking about Zach Tom's performance in 2024.
Well, Zach will be the first one to tell you. I think he wasn't happy with the season last year, but that's just who he is, right? We're never comfortable. We're always hungry. We always want to get better. I don't want to put words in Steno's mouth, but in that room, we talk about competition all the time.
Competition, which is good. Competition's good. It's just a little much for me. I think players hear that stuff. And maybe the Packers feel as though the players do need to hear that stuff. And maybe they don't mind if players get a little fired up and get a little pissed. If they think that these guys are made of the right stuff, they would know better than me. Here's one more. Luke Buckus asked if Zach Tom is a lock to be the right tackle.
Nobody's comfortable in this room. Nobody's comfortable in this building.
How much is clear?
Guys are going to work. And Zach's got that mindset. Rashid's got that mindset that they're going to come to work every single day, because you never know. This is the NFL, right? I mean, it happens every single day.
You hear Wildy. Like, it's not the answer he's looking for. You hear him go, well, I understand.
And
well, I understand. And not the answer, but I like the direct line of questioning. Like, is Rasheed Walker the left tackle? Is Zach Tom the left tackle at this moment in time? And you're not going to get a great answer, but they got some half decent answers. A little wide receiver chatter. Why not? Jason Vrabel, the Packers wide receiver coach, had some interesting comments about managing egos. And you heard that in the intro. Same way you'd manage your kids if you were a parent. You know what I mean? Here he's talking about Golden and Savion Williams, who've had struggles, Williams more than Golden, catching the ball. Here he's talking about how they've looked and speaking specifically on that.
Yeah, they catch the ball great. Matthew early in his...
It's an objective lie. Williams does not, but sure.
Yeah, they catch the ball great. Matthew early in his career, I think at Houston, year one compared to year three at Texas where he finished, has been tremendous growth. And everybody's going to talk about, well, they just go off of like stat lines of just drops. Well, what I look for is like, well, what were the drops? Why were the drops? Did you take your eyes off it? Or are you a natural catcher? There's a lot of reasons why that could occur. But, when they came on visits, when I was with Savion, we sat down and watched about 6 of them. And just through the process, I just asked, well, why did you drop these? Well, 3 of them I rushed my head and eyes. Okay, the other 3 were just tracking the ball. So there's things that everybody has to work on. Throughout the process. But like I said to guys all the time, it's only a weakness if you don't work at it to make it a strength. But if you put in the work, you can change all the things that you need to get better at. And I think, like I said, we got the guys first, and I'm really excited about them and just as being workers, and like I said, fitting our way, man, representing the G.
So I think this is the money shot of this interview. He's asked about the drop-off in Jaden Reed's stats in 2024. And this is minute 25 seconds. I think I'm going to pause it halfway through because there's a couple different pieces of this that I want to pick at.
Sometimes stats, aren't always on the player. They could be on us too, as a coaching staff, whether maybe Josh Jacobs just had a 32 carry game. It's not his fault, or the ball didn't go his way, dictated by the coverage. And you can get him the ball in certain ways, but there's going to be some games that just didn't go that way.
So that, what was that? 15 seconds, 16 seconds of audio. That's why Jaden Reed and his agent met with the Packers. It's like, hey, man, I got a contract coming up. Can we not go 3 weeks in a row without forgetting about me? It's exactly. Vrabel right there is talking and saying the exact things that I bet Jaden Reed and his agent, Drew Rosenhaus, brought to the Packers' attention. Like, look, man, I realize you love Josh Jacobs, and I realize that there's a lot of wide receivers on this team, but like, are we going to have a problem? Because the exact thing that Jason Vrabel just said, that's the exact concern from Reed in his camp.
A couple injuries throughout the time that were nothing like that. He had to miss a lot of games, but he was banged up a little bit too, and he's the type of tough guy who's going to play through everything. I remember 2 years ago in Minnesota, he had to leave the game in halftime to go to the emergency room because, whatever, coughing up blood, but he was fighting through it. He said he didn't want to come out and he wanted to play. I just think he's one of those warrior types that is going to do everything for him, team, himself to be on the field. And like I said, it's not all on him. He has worked tremendously. He's, I think, in my mind, the strongest, most powerful he said he's ever been in his life. When he came in here a couple years ago, I think he was like 185. Now he's at like 199 of like, just your body changes if you eat right and live right. And he has. And I think probably the biggest growth too is the way his leadership's been right now. I really want to commend him because he's standing behind Matthew Golden right now, helping him out with every single play. He's going over with Mecole Hardman, who just got here.
I do like that. That's wide receiver 1 stuff. working with the other guys. Like that was a part of this answer that I really glommed onto and liked a lot.
Guy right now that I feel our guys are the brotherhood strong right now, but he is like, I'm going out of my way because he's a natural leader and he always has been. I think everybody has always said that from Michigan State, to his high school days. He's a natural leader. He's a driven person who's a winner on and off the field. And I think being that genuine person is going to just, good things are going to happen for him.
So the second half of the answer there, I think outlines why the Packers believe that he's their number one wide receiver, even if the production always doesn't reflect it. And it didn't last year for reasons that Vrabel talks about, right? Sometimes that's scheme. Sometimes Jaden Reed's banged up. Sometimes Josh Jacobs is getting the rock a ton. So even if Jaden Reed is not overwhelmingly stat humping at the level that you'd see from a number one overall pick, I think the type of player that he is, the type of person that he is, leads the Packers to really, really like him a lot. And consider him a number one wide receiver and probably pay him first of all of the guys in this group. Now, if they pay him before Dobbs is as good as gone. Because that's the type of thing that'll piss a player right off. It's like, you know what I mean? That guy's not jumping me in line. And I wouldn't be shocked if Williams and Golden are good, really impressive in camp. I don't know. Dobbs be a guy who's potentially on the trade market. Potentially. Maybe. And a long way to go before we get there. But I think it could work out in a way where it wouldn't be totally ridiculous. Let's take a break. Take some of your phone calls if you have anything to add on the other side, 608-321-1670. And I think I'll text them over this break. I think we're going to be lucky enough to be graced by the presence of Curt Hogg, the Journal-Sentinel, just for a little Brewers check-in before we wrap up the show.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes.
I think the biggest thing
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
I think the biggest thing right now that, we're emphasizing with just everybody is, playing with great effort, having open lines of communication in terms of, building that camaraderie within that room, that brotherhood that's required to be able to go out there and play at a high level. And then just as there are going to be mistakes that are going to be made. There's a learning curve associated with going from college to the professional level. So just getting to the standpoint of where, as you correct things, being able to see, can they take the information from the classroom, you apply the coaching, and then just being able to go out there and translate it on the field. And that's a process, but the biggest thing right now that we're just, play with great fundamentals, play with great effort each and every single play. And then some of those other things will start to happen organically as they just get more and more familiar with what we do from an offensive standpoint.
It's Packers wide receiver coach Ryan, is it Mahaffrey? Not McCaffrey, but Mahaffrey. I'm going to have me a snack after the show because I'm hungry. I am hungry. It's a terrible joke, though. I thought that answer would be juicy. You're not going to lie. Like, what are you emphasizing? I thought he'd give us something, like focus, or we really want to, watch the ball all the way and effort. Well, duh. That takes care of itself in an NFL training camp, because if you're not giving effort, you're just not going to be around for very long. Not a bad answer. I was just hoping for something a little juicier. Paul in Menasha texts in and says, Grant, I know you were young, but you do a lot of weddings. Well, yeah, my friends are getting married. I'm that age, 27. Some people get married a little younger. Some people get married a little older, but I think I'm in the gold zone, my friend. I have a wedding this weekend. I have one in June. I have one in September. I have one in December. I'm sure there's one that I'm forgetting. This one's it's in my hometown. So it'll be nice. I get to see some family, and it'll be a lot of friends, which is nice. There's a wedding this summer that we're going to in Fort Atkinson. I was so jacked to get that invite because it's like 40 minutes, if 40 minutes from our apartment. When a lot of the weddings that I go to, people from my hometown, which is 3.5 hours away from where I live, or the Twin Cities, a lot of them are there, and that's 5 hours away. Like, oh, God. Oh, your wedding's 40 minutes away? Yeah, I'll get there early, man. Yeah, whatever you need. I'll help you set up. I don't care. Just don't make me drive hours and hours and hours and hours, which I will for my friends and family who get married, obviously. Thursdays on the Wisco Sports Show, brought to you by La Crosse Beer House. Graduation, speaking of graduation and celebrations, we were talking about weddings, but graduations as well. I was at one this last weekend. If you are traveling to La Crosse for graduation this weekend, UWL, great place to go. La Crosse Beer House down on the corner of 3rd and Pearl. You can get a pretzel, get some brats, locally made at Bubba's Meats, get some spetzel or schnitzel. I actually think they have both. Very, very good German food, delicious, authentic German beers. And my favorite part of the place is in the summertime, because it's on the corner of 3rd and Pearl. It's right there on the main drag in downtown La Crosse. They open up those garage door windows. So it's just a great place to sit and have a beer and hang out. So if you're a La Crosse listener, you know all about the joint. But if you're someone in Eau Claire, Madison, or listening somewhere else in the state, next time you're in La Crosse, just keep La Crosse Beer House in mind. Graduation weekend this weekend would be a perfect spot. Go celebrate with the youngster, with the new graduate, and then walk right down the street from the La Crosse Center, which is where I believe they do graduations. I wouldn't know. I didn't have a graduation. Mine was an email. Graduated in 2020, but I think it's still down at the center. You walk right up the hill, just a couple blocks. You're right there at the beer house. You could celebrate with a big old mug of beer and pretzel. I also like the bacon on the stick. Delicious. Outstanding. La Crosse Beer House. Like them on Facebook. Anytime they have events or live music or whatever, they'll keep you updated there as well. So please support them and thank them in that way for supporting the show. I believe Curt just texted me. Are we going to get Curt? We're going to talk with Curt. Talk Brewers baseball for the final 20 minutes of the show or so. He'll be here in about 10 minutes. But time to take your calls in the meantime, 608-321-1670, and continue to pick at this Packers schedule. I said back at 4 o'clock, and maybe this is a good time to reset the show a little bit. I think the schedule is fun to talk about. Makes for great radio fodder. And it's great to circle. This will be a difficult stretch. This will be an easier stretch where hopefully you can stack some wins. The early bye week versus the late bye week. Here you're playing 3 games in however many days. Here you're doing, this, that, or the other, right? You identify all this stuff. And it's fun to talk about, and it's good content. But I think every NFL schedule has challenges. Every schedule is manageable. You look at every team's schedule, even the ones that are supposed to be easier, and you look, man, that's kind of, That's not easy. You know what I mean? Like, all of these teams are competitive. All these teams are good. It's the NFL. But for teams that are true Super Bowl contenders, and we don't know if the Packers are that yet. I think they were a couple sandwiches short of that picnic last year. I don't think they were frauds, right? It's not like they were, complete. Like, fraudulent is too strong. They weren't big hat, no cattle team, but they were in this small tier, slightly below the heaviest hitters in the NFC. But if the Packers this year are a Super Bowl team, no, I don't think a week 5 bye is going to derail them. I don't think 4 of their final 6 games being on the road, I don't think that will derail them. I don't think if they were to play a game abroad, I don't think that would derail them. Going from Pittsburgh to Arizona, essentially East Coast to West Coast, between October 19th and October 26th, I don't think that will derail them if they're a true Super Bowl caliber, deep playoff run type team. If they're not, well, then that also doesn't matter, because then they're just not good enough to cut the mustard. And it won't be the fault of their travel schedule or an international game or an early bye. It'll just mean that they're not good enough. They're not talented enough. They're not engaged enough. They're not well enough coached. Jordan Love's not good enough, right? It'll be a different problem. I think every NFL schedule is challenging, and I think every single NFL schedule is manageable. 7 teams make the playoffs. I used the Bengals as an example last year. The Bengals had one of the worst defenses I've ever seen in my life. And with a month left in the season, we're like, maybe they could maybe get in. 7 teams make the playoffs. We now have a 17th game, which gives even more margin for error for a good team, who might fall victim to injuries or a tough portion of a schedule that includes a lot of travel, right? Like, there's plenty of games and plenty of teams make the playoffs. If you're a Super Bowl caliber team, you're in the dance, and the schedule will be a minor inconvenience or maybe a minor help. And it might matter for gamblers. If you're looking at the Falcons, you're like, well, the win total's 8.5. Should I go over or under? Okay, well, then look at the schedule and look at the travel. Yeah, because you can find or talk yourself into an extra game here or there, but it's not going to keep the Falcons out or in of the playoffs. These teams control their own destinies. If they're legitimate teams, the schedule is but a minor inconvenience, but a flesh wound. 608-321-1670. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Grant, this is Chuck up in Eau Claire.
Hey, Chuck, what's going on? Is the weather okay up there?
Had some big hail, little tornado, but all's well.
Oh, yeah, that's nothing. That's just, it's another Thursday up there. Yeah, totally. Well, what's going on, Chuck?
All right, I got to take some exception. Call it Throw Down Thursday.
Okay.
The Packers' offensive line, they were ranked like the 6th, I believe, best offensive line. The only reason the offensive line didn't perform well is because 2 starters that are right next to each other didn't do well. All that showed is our depth wasn't there.
Okay.
Tom's was one of the top rated. I believe Ryan was all right, and Blocker had a good year. All it showed is they didn't have depth. And last time I checked, the offensive line doesn't throw interceptions or fumble the ball.
True.
So I don't know why everybody's all up in arms about our offensive line. And Jenkins is one of our best offensive linemen, and he went out.
Yeah.
So I don't get it. Give him some time. Let's be positive. Also, I want to throw down. I'm so sick of hearing about the third baseman situation with the Brewers. The third baseman with the Brewers doesn't hit number 3 or 2 in the lineup.
Fair.
and hit less than 230. And I think in Yelich's case, hits less than 215. So, nobody other than maybe the Yankees or the Dodgers roll out a all-star at every position in the order. So if all we can hang our hat on is that the third baseman is the issue with the Brewers, give me a break. So that's all I got.
God, thanks, Chuck. That's an incredible call. And I think Chuck on the O-line quickly reminds us of something that a lot of Packers fans have lost. They were a top 3 or top 2 offensive line when it comes to pass blocking by most metrics. Some metrics had them as the best pass blocking O-line in the league last year. Now, they also ran the ball a lot, and okay, there's some mitigating factors, but we always talk about, well, you got to keep Jordan Love upright. You got to keep him upright. They did. They weren't an amazing run blocking O-line, but they weren't bad. The depth maybe was an issue, and the Eagles pushed him around, but the Eagles pushed everyone around. I think the Eagles would make plays and have their way at times with even the best O-line that money can buy and draft picks can build. You know what I mean? So you can only build an O-line that's so good. And on the third base thing, Chuck is absolutely correct. Like Contreras, Yelich, Churio are responsible more for this than what's going on at third base and shortstop. However, that's a point of contention for me because the Brewers got lazy or they got cheap or they just missed, which is even maybe more concerning because they thought they would be okay and they haven't been. So just because Yelich has been bad doesn't excuse the Brewers' team building strategy. So they're two different things going on at once. You're absolutely right. And we'll talk about exactly that with Curt Hogg, who's going to join us next. How perfect. The Journal-Sentinel, one of my favorite people in the Wisconsin sports sphere. We're just going to do a little Brewers catch-up with Curt next.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 5 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 4 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
It's the Wisco Sports Show. I had a lot of fun with the Packers schedule. Really enjoying just picking through the games. And again, I'll just reiterate to Packers fans, oh, they got a week 5 bye. Well, if they're a Super Bowl team, it's kind of small potatoes. And if they're not a Super Bowl team, they got bigger issues than a week 5 bye. Does that make sense? Better for sports radio fodder and maybe betting angles if you're looking to do over-unders than it is for an actual team and their chances to contend for a Super Bowl. Curt Hogg joining us now for a little Brewers catch-up. Curt, you were down in Cleveland. They won the series finale. My takeaway from that last game, and this is my attempt at a positive spin, if the Brewers can just get one guy to do what Rhys Hoskins did, even not on a crazy scale, but if you can just get Yelich or Contreras or Churio to have a great night here and there, the rest of the team looks a whole lot better all of a sudden.
I really thought you were going for some sort of sarcastic line there.
No.
If you can just get a guy to go, not making out, driving 5, you'll be in a good spot most nights, Grant. And you're absolutely right. That is what they need.
Drive in 3. Could you drive in 3 and get 2 hits a night? You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't have to be a historically good night, which is essentially what Rhys Hoskins had.
Yeah. The part of the issue, and you know this obviously, is Rhys Hoskins has been sort of, I don't want to say the only guy that's hitting, because Churio's a little above average still, and Jake Bauers has been good, and Contreras has had a few games here and there. But as you well know, Grant, there's been a lot of holes in that.
Correct.
So yes, that's where we're at.
Are you more surprised by Rhys Hoskins hitting 292 or Yelich hitting 205?
Oh, that is the Rhys Hoskins. That's a good question. I think it's a better question in theory than in practice because the answer is obvious. It's Rhys Hoskins.
Yeah.
But it's a good question still.
Hoskins isn't an average hitter. Like, he's never, even in his good seasons, he's never, like,
yeah.
Have the Brewers made some sort of adjustment? Like, did they get with him this offseason and ask him to play this way?
Well, he has made the adjustment. If you watch him, he's not selling out for the power with his swing. His mechanics are a little different. Like, he's sort of toe tapping. It's a shorter swing, and he's making more contact. Like, he's not going to hit as many homers this year as last year, probably. But he's going to have a much better offensive season.
Is the idea simply that William Contreras gets better at hitting with a broken finger? Like, what's the end game there? I remain confused. Although he did have a good day the other day.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, Grant. I'm glad you asked this. I asked this to Murph on Tuesday. I'm like, Murph, like, we've talked about William Contreras a lot, but what would it take to put him on the IL? And the answer is basically there's nothing that would do it, because this injury, the Brewers say, would require essentially like reconstructive surgery to it. It's the same finger he hurt last year. I'm not entirely sure how it didn't just heal up over the off season, or if he re-aggravated it or what. But it was the same, essentially, like, broken, bruised finger that he had last year, and it's back again. So at this point, it's either undergo surgery and your season's over, or you're going to play through it. And William Contreras, being the tough son of a gun he is going to play through it, because apparently there's no in between.
Yeah, it's definitely no in between.
You can't just have him sit out 20 days. 20 days.
That doesn't help.
To be an option, apparently.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if that's not going to heal the finger, if that's how they're describing the injury, then I guess there would be no point to that. Maybe an occasional night off if there's swelling, but I don't know. I'm not a doctor. Matt Arnold spoke with you guys on Sunday, and he said that Tobias Myers could maybe come back and help us in the second half, which maybe he was just talking, but that's like, oh, so you're sending him down for a while. And now he's back because Quintana's on the aisle and Brandon Woodruff had a setback. Did you make something of those comments? And did it seem to you like the Brewers didn't have interest in bringing Tobias Myers back? It seems like this isn't something they maybe wanted to do so soon.
Well, I did have. There's two things actually here that were interesting about it. One is I definitely made note of that. That's an interesting way to put it when there's, at the time, 2 months, still 2 months till the second half starts. I mean, it does make a little sense with Savali coming back. And at the time, Brandon Woodruff was about to make his final scheduled rehab start. And now he's back on the shelf again before he begins more rehab before coming back. Although that theoretically won't be super duper duper long. But nevertheless, like that's part of it. But I definitely and I don't know. I'd have to ask Matt if he was just speaking in, out of whatever was coming to his head at that point, or if he truly, truly meant second half. But the move, plus maybe some, if you want to read into that comment, you can read into a little of where the Brewers viewed Tobias Myers. His pitching lines had been fine because the ERA is under 4. He was still getting through 4 innings with 2 runs. So they were clearly at a point where they did not feel like it was going to, he needed a reset. But the other interesting part of it, Grant, is they have a spot opened up by the Quintana injury on Saturday. Jacob Mizorowski could have made that start. They have an open 40 spot. They chose to call Tobias Myers instead, which they could do because obviously he's injured, and that allows you to, there's an injury list move, and that allows you to bring a guy back up within 15 days, whereas usually he has to stay down. So maybe that was part of it. But it was interesting to me that they seemed to be, I don't know if frustrated is the right word with Tobias Myers, but disenchanted. How about that?
That's a perfect word. It seems like there's something more than he just hasn't been awesome. And that doesn't even necessarily mean that it's personal. Like they don't like him as a guy, but it seems like he's getting judged on a slightly different scale for some reason.
Yeah. But then the interesting part of that is then they didn't call up Miz, and we saw what he did today, throwing 103 miles an hour in the 6th inning, which no pitcher has ever done in the pitch tracking era, which is since 2008. Grant, I'm going to go on a limb and say no starting pitcher has literally ever thrown 103 miles per hour in the 6th inning. Like literally ever. Yeah. I don't think it has been done in baseball, and Jacob Mizorowski did it today. So maybe they wanted to see one more out of him, but there is no question in my mind that guy is big league ready right now.
Curt Hogg, the Journal Sentinel, is joining us. Do you think if the Brewers were better, Miz would be up here?
I think if they were worse, he would be up here. Does that make sense?
Huh. Well,
I think he should. I mean, frankly, I think he should be. He looks. I was kind of slow playing a little too. I was like, let me see like 3-4 really good ones. This is like 2 or 3 really good ones into it, and now we've seen like 3 amazing ones. And so it's like, yeah, there's nothing to wait for. Like he has the best stuff of any of these guys, and he's suddenly throwing strikes.
Well, and if Brandon Woodruff comes back, like this is the connection that I drew on my show yesterday, and I'm not telling people to lower their expectations with Brandon Woodruff, but temper maybe their expectations. Like if you get from Brandon Woodruff as a starter what you got from Logan Henderson yesterday, which is 5 solid innings, 7 Ks and 1 walk, like that's a home run from Woodruff. So what are the Brewers reasonably expecting him to do once he's back up here after this ankle is done and hopefully no other injuries?
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people saying like, well, Brandon Woodruff can be Brandon Woodruff. And I don't think that's reasonable to expect from a guy who's throwing 92 to 94 when his fastballs are his dominant pitches, and they're like usually 96, 98. Yeah. But, maybe a 4 ERA who can pitch deep into games. And like the guy knows how to pitch. He's always had good command too. So there are going to be avenues for him to be successful. He's just kind of got to figure them out, and you're not relying on the sheer velocity of the fastballs. The breaking balls, like the secondary stuff, I was expected to still be pretty good, and maybe that's some of the stuff he'll lead with. But yeah, I think like that 4 ERA mark is pretty fair.
What is your assessment of Jackson Churio's sophomore season so far?
Probably what we should have expected.
Okay.
I know the spring training high performance, just the dominance, the ease of the dominance maybe got us all excited about what's possible. And I still think that's possible. And I still think we see some of it or all of it or a lot of it in the second half. But this is probably about what we should have expected from him. Some ups and downs, still some flashes, but definitely some frustrations in there as well.
Do you think Murphy's, forget his tactical moves as a manager, do you think his messaging is fitting what this team needs, and do you think it's landing?
I don't know, Grant. I legitimately, I don't know where to put my finger on it. It's a similar group to the one last year, and it clearly worked then. So, maybe you say, oh, what the heck? Of course, it's going to be the same this year. Maybe not. I don't entirely know. I do think that some of the things that were said after the second team meeting and 2 road trips were much more needed than that first one after the Giants game, where they were just kind of playing bad defense for a few days.
Okay.
This one felt like, I don't know, some sort of reset was needed. There were a lot of guys that were just not playing like with any confidence or juice or anything like that. And we saw Sal Free try to turn that around single-handedly by slamming his helmet after his home run.
Yeah.
On yesterday. So I don't know. It felt like stepping away from it was like, yeah, maybe they did need to talk, a talk, but then again, who knows how much that stuff actually works.
One more Brewers question, then I'm going to ask for your BBWAA expertise before I let you go. But Yelich, I said the other day, I know he's not a rah-rah guy, vocal leader type, but this team needs something from him. He needs to provide some sort of voice or leadership. From what you've seen in the clubhouse from him, is he doing anything like that? Is he providing anything like that? Or just tell us about that.
It's the same guy he always is. I don't know what you want to read into that either way. Yelich is a pretty chill, keep it loose sort of guy.
He's a cool cat.
Yeah, and who knows what he's saying behind closed doors at these meetings. Odds are he's looked at to provide something in these moments. I know Rhys Hoskins is another one of those guys, but Rhys is maybe, in sometimes might be a little more vocal even. Yelich is kind of, he has his style and his way, and it's just sort of, it's been what I've seen from him the last couple of years since things started to turn better. I would say offensively for him, no, it's not he's not performing at that level.
Gotcha. And lastly, Curt Hogg, the BBWAA, your opinion and nobody else's opinion. If you were voting, would you put Pete Rose in the Hall of Fame?
Oh, this is the worst question you've ever asked me.
You don't need to have an opinion because I don't have an opinion.
I don't want to have an opinion. If I had to, I would spend a lot more time than I have thinking about it. My gut is no. My gut is no. And here's I think I would have voted for the steroid guys like Bonds, but now that a precedent has been set, I wouldn't vote for Braun. Oh, Braun's not good enough maybe to make it on his own anyway. But that's the sort of guy I might not vote for because the precedent has been set. I don't know. I don't have my vote for 6 more years, thank God. And there's just a lot of that around Pete Rose that you could very, very, very easily argue is worse than anything that those guys did with banned substances. But I'm willing to hear out both sides, but I'm also not because the discourse is kind of driving me insane.
Hey, heavy is the neck that supports the lanyard that has the BBWAA tag clipped to it. This is part of the is the territory that you occupy. Well, thank you, Curt. I had to ask you that at the end. I appreciate the time.
Of course, Grant. Always good talking to you. See you later.
You as well. Friend of the community, Curt Hogg. Excellent work at the Journal-Sentinel. Just a nice Brewers catch-up. No pressing stories other than the team not being very good, but no breaking news, nothing like that. Just an off day. I thought a nice 10-minute baseball palate cleanser tucked into a mostly NFL Packers-driven show. I thought it would be good. So appreciate Curt's time. Let's come back. We'll wrap up the show. I'll give you a minute on last night's Survivor episode, which was better than the last few weeks, but also frustrating in its own way. Also, a couple final thoughts on the Packers. We'll wrap it up next.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Bill Michaels here. Are your two wheels revved up? Because here it comes. The Big River Rally where the river meets the road. It rolls into La Crosse on June 27th and 28th. Join us for a weekend packed with action. Stunt shows, a killer bike show, food trucks, all kinds of awesome vendors. Friday, Rod's River Run with Texas Hippie Coalition lighting up the stage that night. Then Saturday, it's the Big River Rally Ride. Miles and miles of pure freedom. Then Saturday night, Drowning Pool rocks the house. Grab your tickets right now. BigRiverRally.com. That's BigRiverRally.com, and I'll see you there.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
I think it starts with building relationships and giving these guys opportunity to spend time with one another away from the field. I've been really impressed with just our group, with how much time they spent with one another, the time they spent with each other in the off season. I think those things are all important. During the course of the season, you're going to experience adversity. And the more you know somebody that you're working with, the more familiar you are with them and their personality. I just think that creates a little bit more space when you get in those adverse times for you to be able to pull each other along to do those type of things. I think this offseason, the conversations that have been had with the guys out on the field, the way they're pouring into one another, the genuine enthusiasm they have to see each other's success. I think that camaraderie is continue to even build and go to a higher level. I think it was strong last year, and it's just been great to see as guys are going into their third, going into their fourth year, guys have just started to even take more of a leadership role in terms of that level of communication, and then really making a concerted effort to spend time with each other away from the field.
That's more from Packers wide receiver coach Ryan Mahaffrey, I believe. Mahaffrey, let me check. Yeah, Mahaffrey. Okay, now we can all sleep okay tonight. That was a good point. Like, hey, when adversity comes or when you're competing with somebody for targets, it helps the process a little bit if you know them personally and you care about them. I thought that was a good answer. 608-321-1670. Let's sneak a call in before the end of the show. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
It's Darnell.
Hey, Darnell. What's going on?
I just got out of work a little bit later today. The softball game that I was supposed to play in tonight got canceled.
Why?
Because of bad field conditions, which I find completely impossible to believe on the southwest side of Madison. Just want to point that out.
I looked out the window not that long ago. It's not even raining.
No, it's been sunny for the last hour and a half. A little bit frustrating, but this is what we do. The meteorologists, they do their thing all day. They pump up everybody's awareness, and then it's just a big, huge letdown every single time. So maybe someday we'll get absolutely destroyed by a storm, and I'll eat my words, but hasn't happened yet.
It hasn't happened. There's been a couple. I saw there was some huge hail over towards like Waukesha, and I know up towards Eau Claire it got pretty nasty. There was some hail up there, but not been the drubbing here in south central and southeastern Wisconsin, at least not in the Madison area that was predicted by some. You were correct.
And I don't get to watch the Brewers lose tonight either, so I feel like I feel a little empty right now. I have to like hang out with my son. It's wild.
Oh, it's because the Brewers are off. I was like, wait, I thought they were off tonight. Now I realize what you're saying. Well, you can be a dad then. Apply yourself in that way, Darnell.
Absolutely. Yeah, it'll be a good night.
Yeah.
Got to see him. Got to see him every once in a while, right?
Yeah, someone's got to raise the kid. Yeah, not you, but somebody. Yeah, you can pitch in here and there.
I'll show up to like one of his baseball games every couple weeks.
Well, when the Madison Liberals allow the kids to play baseball, not worried about the weather. I gotta stop. Appreciate it, Darnell. I gotta run.
Yeah, have a good one, Grant.
He tweeted earlier, and I almost read this tweet because I laughed at it, but I was like, well, I don't want to steal his thunder. Pardon the weather pun. If he calls in, 4:53, Darnell tweeted, in typical liberal Madison fashion, everyone needs to get to their safe spaces due to tornadoes in the area. Yeah. Evo got yelled at the other morning by a caller for making a Nancy Pelosi joke. So I just, try to make jokes both ways. We used to be able to do that as a country. Obviously, if there's tornadoes, you should go to an inner room. Obviously. Jesus once upon a time said, if you were to pray, you should go to your inner room. You should not do it loudly for others to see. But also these days, we can flaunt it a little bit, Catholics, because we're the center of the world with a conclave just going on. So the inner room can be reserved for tornadoes, not so much for prayer these days. Also, on the topic of Survivor last night, I'm glad that something actually happened. This move could go great. Who they decided to go out, and I won't spoil it overtly, but this move could pay off next week if Kyle wins or Mitch wins the immunity challenge, or Camilla. If one of those three wins immunity and not Joe and Eva, this move could have been brilliant. But if Joe or Eva wins immunity next week, Idol goes on the other, and they're porked. Whereas they could have also used Shaheen as an ally instead. I'm glad they made a move, and yeah, like Joe and Eva getting rid of their what's the word I'm looking for? When you have a camaraderie, an analogy, an alliance. Geez. Be back at 4 tomorrow. Talk to you then.